Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody here today to our annual Four Flags ceremony honoring the history of a proud and beautiful city of Warren along the majestic Allegheny River. It is going to be a great event, I am sure, and I certainly appreciate everybody making it out today to help celebrate and kick off Memorial Day weekend with us. At this point, before we go any further, I'd like to start with the invocation, and I'm going to pass this off to Pastor Jeff Ewing.
Let us pray. We give you thanks, Great Spirit, for creating this land and all your children. We remember the Seneca people who cared for your land for generations. We remember the French and British who put their imprint here. And we, in this time and space, give thanks for this place we call home. Make your presence known to us. Guide us in the way of peace, love, and wisdom. Let this flag-raising ceremony be a celebration of all the citizens who attached their history to this land, and give us your grace to honor and cherish both, the people, past and present, and the earth, air, water, and soil. In your Spirit we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jeff. Again, I'd like to welcome everybody here today to help us celebrate the beautiful and proud heritage of the city of Warren. Today's program is our 57th annual event, first occurring in 1968 on this same site. When you have the opportunity, please take a moment and read the history of the Four Flags program on the back of your brochure. During the raising of the Four Flags, the music will be played by the Warren Area High School Band, and it's going to be a great treat for us today to continue to listen to the great and beautiful music that our young people are providing today under the direction of Marshall White. We sincerely appreciate the participation of these musicians today in making the program such an enjoyable event. The Four Flags Committee would also like to give special thanks to several organizations that have contributed generously to help purchase these flags. The Exchange Club of Warren, the Warren Lions Club, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and the City of Warren staff. We'll now continue with our program by raising the four historical flags representing the nations that have held dominion over this area over the centuries. Our color guard this morning is made up of the Scouts from Troop 13 of the Chief Corn Planter Council, sponsored by the North Warren Presbyterian Church. Ian Gustafson, president of the Warren Lions Club, will present our first flag to be raised to the color guard. This flag represents the Seneca Nation of Indians, the first nation to live and prosper in Warren County. Gary Campbell will play Trail of Tears. Excellent work. The second flag to be raised this morning will be the French Fleur de Lis. The French claimed dominion over this land in the late 1600s. They attempted to enforce that claim when Céloron de Blainville, leading a party of French explorers, planted a lead plate at the confluence of the Conewango Creek and the Allegheny River in the summer of 1749. Richard Swanson, representing the Warren Kiwanis Club, will present the French flag to the color guard, and the Warren High School Band will accompany the raising with Marseillaise, the French national anthem. Our third flag that we'll be raising this morning is the British King's Colors, which represents the British rule over the territories and colonies which now make up the eastern United States. The British were present during much of the time that Céloron made his expedition and were ordered to leave the area. Not surprisingly, he was largely ignored. In fact, it appears that he was somewhat obnoxious, offending many of the Native Americans who inhabited these lands, who ended up digging up most of the lead plates that the French buried. Bill and Brenda Jones, representing the Warren Rotary Club, will present the British flag, which will be raised while the band plays God Save the Queen. Again, excellent work. Thank you. Our fourth and final flag, and almost on cue, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we had a pair of bald eagles that are circling the city as we're going through the ceremony, which I'm not sure who queued that up, but they obviously got the memo. Hopefully they'll come back this way so everybody can take a good look. But our fourth and final flag is, of course, the American flag. This flag is the Betsy Ross flag, which is the first American flag to feature the stars and stripes. I do want to point out that this is a historical flag. It is not obviously the official flag of the United States, which of course has 50 stars and 13 stripes. So not all the rules regarding the position and dominance over the other flags necessarily apply to this flag. However, we do give it an appropriate position of prominence in front of the three other flags and keep it lit at night as we would the official U.S. flag. C.J. Chase, a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, will present the flag to the color guard. And I would ask that everybody that is able, when we raise this flag, if you please stand. The Warren Area High School Band will play our national anthem. I am now honored to introduce a good friend and a fellow classmate of the class of 1985. Well, I see a number of them out there, which is fantastic to see. Our speaker this morning is Robert Dilks Jr. Bob was born and raised right here in Warren, Pennsylvania, where he proudly has remained a lifelong resident of the northern portion of the city, commonly known as Hooktown. Former home of the Home Street Wildcats, he and his wife Jennifer joyfully raised two girls, Bailey and Kelsey, who have both gone on to be physician assistants. Their oldest, Bailey, is due with she and her husband Stephen Blair's first child in the next few weeks. We will soon be calling Bob Grandpa. Bob currently serves as the Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Management at the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford, or as he puts it, he's the admissions guy. He is a Pitt Bradford graduate and this summer celebrates 35 years working for Pitt. Although his job takes him to Bradford, his heart is always in Warren, where he served on the original Main Street program initiative back in the early 90s. Served on the City of Warren Planning Commission for over a decade, has been a champion for long-term strategic planning, and a supporter of the downtown revitalization efforts. Bob is a longtime member of the Warren Forest Higher Education Council Board of Directors and is currently serving as the president of that board. It's fair to say Bob loves Warren, and we love him, and is no stranger to Heritage Park and the Four Flags ceremony. Without further ado, Mr. Bob Dilks.
Okay, I gotta do something before I get started. This is pretty cool. We're very lucky to have this. I will admit, it has been a long time since I've actually been here for the ceremony. And as you'll hear from the words I say as we move through this, there's quite a history here, at least for my family. Hello and good morning. As Pete Wambach used to say back in the day, it's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania. I'm quite certain I'm not the first person to quote those words from this very lectern, but I can honestly say it's the first thing that went through my mind when our city manager, Mike Holtz, reached out and asked if I would speak today. Thanks for asking, Mike. It's great to be here. This past week, we installed a bench that my wife and my daughter are sitting on now in honor of my father, and my thanks goes out to the city for being awesome and just saying, sure, where do you want to put it? How about there? So we've got a lasting memory of my father, which I think he is definitely smiling down on all of us today. I'd like to ask all of you to ask yourself a question. What truly brings us here today? Not just today, but this same weekend, every year, year after year, just to raise a bunch of flags. What is it that brings us together? Many would say it was history. As Mr. Wortman alluded to, there is a lot of history to be celebrated here, and that is true. It's honoring our ancestors, it's paying respect to those that paved the way for our beautiful city of Warren. It is, after all, Memorial Day weekend. Many know it best as Decoration Day. A weekend and a day to remember those that we have lost to time, and especially those that we have lost to service to our country. With this in mind, although perhaps a little unconventional, instead of a moment of silence in honor of those lost, let's see if we can collectively send a positive message to the heavens with a solid round of applause for those that we have lost and those we honor this weekend. Let's hear it. History sure does connect me to this very moment and this place. As some of you know, and as was mentioned earlier today, my father, Bob Dilks Sr., passed away this past January, just a couple months short of 91 years old. Let me share with you a little of my history with this ceremony, this place, and this town. If you turn to the back of the program, there is a history of the evolution of this park. You'll see some important milestones regarding Heritage Point's history. And until I actually read the draft of the program, I didn't really realize how my life had tracked with this place. My dad, along with many others, was intimately involved in the creation and evolution of this iconic park. Dad passionately helped to support the efforts of the Kinzua Dam Vacation Bureau, the predecessor of the modern-day Warren County Visitors Bureau. He believed, as did the organizer of the group, W. Leroy Schneck, that the natural surroundings of the forest, the then new Kinzua Dam, and of course, the then borough of Warren, the quintessential river town, was at the base of a potential avalanche of tourism, economic windfalls, and who knows what other great fortune. Nearly 60 years later, we all continue to chase that avalanche and still believe in the virtues of what we have to offer in our community and region. KDVB, a phrase I would go on to hear often as a young boy, birthed the idea of this very park in 1967 with a plan to fly 3 flags in recognition of the countries that laid claim to this valley throughout the centuries. The other thing born that year, this guy. Although I likely was conceived before the park was, I'd like to think that I have some cosmic simpatico with this special place. I've always been drawn to it. When Dad passed away, my brother Jay and I, hi Jay, along with the rest of our family, plowed through boxes of keepsakes and relics. Among them, the handwritten note from Senator Joe Clark to my dad thanking him for a great event on that inaugural flag raising in 1968, and for he and my mom's hospitality during Senator Clark and his wife's visit. I can attest this was really his handwriting. It wasn't done by a secretary, and it was in some cool stationery. Little did I know that when I was reading this, that I would be standing here today telling you about this story, and those notes would be relevant some 56 years later. Fast forward to 1979, I'm 12 years old, my brother is 9. We're tagging along with Dad as the new stone monument is set in place and plaques are being readied for installation. That stone right down there. That is when my dad donned an old-fashioned lead pencil, or graphite as he would say, and he encouraged us to write our names on the stone where the plaques would be placed. We wrote our names, and Dad drew a heart with Bob plus Sally in the middle. A corny ode to my mother, I thought at the time. Ew. Dad declared our names will be there forever, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea. More than a few Memorial Day weekends during our youth, Jay and I would tag along for the flag raising. Usually not very interested in the goings-on, it was just Dad doing his thing, and we'd loiter around. If you think about it, we were pretty young kids hanging out by a river, unattended by adults. I don't know what that says. After a handful of years, I think we negotiated our way out of being here for the day. However, the interest in attending returned in 1986 and 1987. When after a long and concerted effort, the addition of a 4th flag representing the Seneca Nation, and then the Birdstone Monument were added to the park. Finally and legitimately, you could say, all the rightful countries and people from our collective past were represented via these colorful and now iconic symbols by the river. Regrettably, that birdstone succumbed to the elements and was removed several years ago, but I remain hopeful one day a suitable replacement will return to the banks of the Allegheny. In the meantime, the symbolism of the Seneca flag remains vibrantly flying. Dad's altruistic and diligent work with the Seneca Nation led to his ultimate adoption into the Seneca Corn Planter Clan, one of his proudest moments. It was a big celebration on this very spot, complete with Native American dances, song, a grown white man in a full suit and tie, dancing with a smile on his face like a little boy on Christmas morning. Now, today is not meant to be a eulogy for my father, by no means. It's a happy history that my family shares with this special place and this unique ceremony. But I do want to return to my question from the very beginning. What brings us all here today? Yes, it is to honor the past, but I would like to suggest it's simply hope and optimism. Hope and optimism. One of the strongest traits my father possessed and passed down to his two sons is optimism. Anything is possible. Good ideas and good work always will prevail. No matter how dark it may become, there's always light somewhere. He was always positive, always optimistic. Now, as Dave talked earlier, back in the 1700s, Celeron and his French explorers risked life and limb to sail across the very dangerous ocean to lay claim to this region by burying lead plates in this not yet established community, full of hope and optimism for what this land of plenty could do for their homeland of France. And for historical accuracy, they were also trying to keep the British from advancing any further west. Later, the English, seeing opportunity, and I dare say optimistic about what good fortune this land would be for the British Empire, laid claim as a result of the French and Indian War. A short 19 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Warren was established. But why? Why here? Why this place? Hope and optimism. The pioneers of this town were optimistic about the fortunes to be had in timber, tanning, oil, and refining, among many others. Natural resources were, and still are, abundant. Warren's location was perfect for commerce in those early days because of the Conewango Creek and the Allegheny River. And fast forward to today, it's perfect for tourism, a fantastic way of life, and ripe for those looking to escape the city to take advantage of the technologies of today and work remotely from this beautiful jewel of a city. The truly indigenous people of the area are the Senecas. A few hundred years ago, the Iroquois people were fractured into 5 warring camps: the Oneida, the Cayuga, Onondaga, Seneca, and Mohawk. They ultimately made peace and came together with the hope and optimistic promise of, and this is their phrasing, "The land shall be beautiful, the river shall have no more waves, and that everyone may go everywhere without fear." That's a premise I think we can all get behind. If you really think about it, and I'm not getting political here, the United States of America was created with healthy doses of hope and optimism, and our core values rest in these notions. Set forth by the Iroquois: the land shall be beautiful, the river shall have no waves, and that anyone may go anywhere without fear. Today, my friends, hope and optimism brings us here to this special site to raise these flags, to pay respects, pay tribute, and salute the past. Embrace the here and now and smile optimistically about the future to come. To close, I'd like to quote Robert Charles Dilks Sr. from an article published in the Warren Times Observer about a decade ago. He still had his wits about him then. I think it's good every once in a while to stop and really think about it. The flags can be a symbol of a lot of things, not just countries they represent. It's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania. Here's to hope and optimism. Have a great weekend, everybody.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing the insight and the stories of your father, who had such a great and meaningful impact on Heritage Point. Truly inspiring. And hope and optimism each and every day, carrying that forward is a great reminder in terms of the opportunities not only in the city, the state of Pennsylvania, but the United States. And what a great message, and thank you again so much for sharing that with us. And once again, I want to thank everybody for spending the time and sharing this ceremony with us. It's so very important to remember the heritage of this beautiful city, the great state of Pennsylvania, and our role within the United States. And as Bob called out, and it's very meaningful, you know, the name of our city and our county, named after General Joseph Warren, who gave his life in the foundation and the birth of this country, and our namesake, we truly, as a city being founded in 1795, not long after the independence and the foundation of this great country, there's so much beautiful history here that needs to be celebrated, and this is just another great way for us to be able to do that and come together as a community and listen to the music of our young people, and for our scouts, the young men and women of the scouts who did a wonderful and beautiful job with the flag raising part of the ceremony. I'd like to give them a round of applause, please. Fantastic job. And before we close, I would also like to thank some people and the organizations for their help and support. This annual event, as always, would not be possible without many hands. Helping out, not only would it not be possible without the financial support as well. We purchase these new flags every other year, and the price keeps going up, as you can imagine. Currently, the 4 flags are right around $4,000. If anybody is inclined, and I know it sounds a bit like a sales pitch, and it is, but if you are so inclined, tax-deductible gifts in support of the 4 Flags program can and may be made to the Warren County Development Association, care of the WCCBI at 308 Market Street in Warren. And please identify, if you're so inclined, your gift to be put towards the 4 Flags. Thank you. In addition to the service clubs and organizations listed in your program, really like to call out the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and the Daughters of the American Revolution. A special thank goes to the City of Warren and the Warren Parks Department for their generous support. Again, thanks to the Boy Scout Troop 13 for acting as our color guard, as well as hauling all the chairs and handing out the brochures. And thanks again for our music provider, the Warren Area High School Band, under the direction of Marshall White. Again, a round of applause, please. Thanks to Aaron Mee and Lily Broadcasting, Josh Cotton and the Warren Times Observer, Brian Hagberg of Your Daily Local, and Jackie Palmer of Erie News Now for publicizing this great event. The Warren County Chamber of Business and Industry loaned us the sound system, and the City of Warren for printing our programs. St. John's Lutheran Church in Pleasant Township generously agreed to provide a backup location in case of bad weather. And incidentally, in 50 years of 4 Flags ceremonies, we've only ever had to go to our alternate location twice. We've been extremely fortunate. Finally, and our most sincere thanks go out to all of you for coming out here today and celebrating our beautiful heritage. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for your interest and support. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you very much.